Hello and welcome to today's video where we're going to be installing Linux to this external SSD, Kubuntu 24.04 to be exact. So this external SSD was £64 on Amazon recently. It is USB-C and it supports USB 3.2 Gen 2 2x2. It's a lot of twos. So it's claiming 2000 megabytes read and 2000 megabytes write speed. So we will see if that rings true. We're going to be running it from the external SSD on this iMac 27-inch 2017 5K model. There will be chapters on this video, so feel free to skip to whatever point you might be interested in. I will be benchmarking some games later on and they will be in the chapters. An Intel 7th generation i7 7700K, 4.2 gigahertz clock speed, 4 cores, 8 threads. It currently has 48 gigabytes of 2400 DDR4 RAM in there. It has a 500 gigabyte NVMe SSD, and it has a Radeon Pro 580, 8 gigabytes of RAM version, and that's GDDR5. So it also has 27-inch 5K IPS panel, which is very nice. So the reason I'm installing it on an external SSD and not onto the iMac's NVMe drive itself is because A, it's quite a small drive, so I want to leave that for macOS where I do my video editing and pretty much everything. It's my main computer. And I do plan on patching it onto a later version of macOS at some point because it's currently on Ventura, which is the latest supported version for this model. And I've heard of a lot of issues coming up when you try to dual boot Linux with a patched Mac, and I don't have the technical capability to solve them, and I don't want those issues on my main PC. I do want to potentially do some light gaming with this, and I think the Radeon Pro 580 is capable of that, and of course Linux has way better support for games than macOS does. So let's install Linux to the external drive using this Mac now. Right, so excuse the mess behind here. We'll get the Ventoy, which has Kubuntu 24.04 on it, and we'll pop that in. And we'll plug the external SSD into the Thunderbolt drive and the Thunderbolt port, and that's plugged in like that there. So we've got the external SSD and the Ventoy USB drive plugged in. So what we'll do is just restart the Mac and hold down the Alt/Option key. And then we'll select the EFI boot, and that'll load up Ventoy. I have all my ISOs that I like to try out there. We will select Kubuntu, put that in Grub 2 mode, try or install Kubuntu. Right, so now we're at the Kubuntu installer. I believe this is the Calamares one. London for the time zone. English UK default. And we'll go with the full installation. So now at this point we're going to select the external SSD, erase the disk, set it as ext4, and next. And center the details. And install. Install now. Right, so that is the install completed. We will restart now. and hold down the Option key. And you need to remove the Ventoy so we know which one we're booting from, because the balls just say FI. And there we are, booted into the Kubuntu desktop, running off the external SSD. So the reason I have chose Kubuntu is because I like the stability of Ubuntu, and I really like the look of the KDE Plasma desktop environment. So I'm gonna get some things installed on here, probably do some display scaling changes, and then we'll come back to it. Okay, so I've installed some things on here. We'll just do a cold boot. See how long it takes to load up. So there's a few things to note. Now, although this is a 5K display, we're only getting a 4K resolution, and that is something to do with a proprietary Apple driver that puts two images together to create the 5K display, so that only works on macOS. If you're looking at Linux or Windows, the maximum you can output on the display is 4K. Another thing is that the speakers did not work on the initial install. Just pop a password in there. Speakers didn't work on the initial install, so I had to download, and I believe compile is the correct term, a sort of community made driver by the look of things for the speakers. So I will leave descriptions of how to do that in the description, along with a link to the website that I used to guide that through. Also, the microphone does not work. I could not get that working for the life of us, but the webcam does. Now, as for everything else is running absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. So we'll have a look at the system monitor here. So on boot, it's using 1.7 gigs of RAM and like less than 1% of CPU usage when idling. But we're not really that worried about RAM usage on this system, considering the amount that's available. So we'll like everything just runs fine and snappy on here. We'll have a look at some test footage of 4K playback. I'll put this one on. Stats for mid. Yep, so 4K 60. And that's running absolutely fine. And looks very nice. Yeah, looks like there was 2 drop frames at the start, but other than that, it's running flawlessly, which is to be expected with discrete graphics in there. So yes, for general day-to-day, obviously this is going to work fine, but I did install this to try and play some games on it. So let's have a look at some games. To start with, for shits and giggles, why not have a little game of SuperTuxKart? Like, obviously this is going to run perfectly. Yeah, and obviously it's all max settings, 4K resolution, and that looks like a lot 60 to me, to be honest. But of course it will be, because like this runs on very low powered machines with no real issue, so why wouldn't it run well on here? So yes, that is
SuperTuxKart. So next we're going to be looking at Tomb Raider 2013, which is my benchmarking game of choice. In terms of graphics here, we are on 1440p with ultra settings. Yeah, so 1440p ultra, we are looking at roughly about 60 frames. There's a few drops here and there. So I have got Brotherhood installed, but unfortunately there's just some games it doesn't seem to want to run in. I've tried all sorts and I just can't seem to get it running in some games. So we're just stuck with the built-in frame rate counter for this one. But yeah, this is running really nice at 1440p max settings. For those of you that have watched the channel before, you'll know that I'm not used to playing this game at such nice high settings and frame rates, so it's very refreshing to be able to play this like this.
Just got word from the West Beach. Looks like a smaller group escaped from the lower forest. Oh, Bob! Help me out here!
Boom, hit him. In the neck. But yes, so that's that for a 60 FPS experience. But if you wanted it to look nicer, at a 30 frames per second, you can bump that all the way up to 4K Ultra, and it'll run closer to a 30 frames experience. Just depends on your preference of how you prefer to play games. I know most people play aiming for the 60 or obviously higher, but I quite like playing them at I usually go for 30 frames and the habit look prettier. Just a habit I've had since always, really.
Check that side.
A lot of people would say I'm crazy, but it's just how I like it.
Keep looking. She's got to be here somewhere. You find anything on that? Oh, not a damn thing. Whoa. Hey, watch it. Up or down the all the way to the sea cave. There she is.
And it just looks great at this resolution and max settings. Very nice, very refreshing for us to play this game like this. Yes, but you get the idea. So that is Tomb Raider 2013. Next up we have Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and that is running at 4K with everything set to max. And this seems to be running at a locked 60 frames essentially as well. So that's running absolutely perfectly as well. I mean, it is a game from 2010, so with this graphics card you would expect it to run nicely, and indeed it does, and it looks awesome like this. I am loving it. I'm really glad I decided to put Linux on here to actually play some games with it. Get on the horse here. Still taking a lot to get used to PC controls. Like, I know you can just connect a pad and it just works and things. I was testing it out with the DualShock 4 earlier, but I thought I'd really embrace it and just try and get used to the controls. Yes, that looks awesome and is running flawlessly at a locked 60. Never even saw it coming. I love the tune of the ability in this game. But yes, so that's Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. So next up we have Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is a much more modern and graphically demanding game. And we'll have Mango Hub working for this one. So you can see the statistics there. So to get a 60 FPS experience on this game, I have it at 1080p on high settings, and it seems to be hovering around 60 frames there. So yes.
It's working.
I'm tired of this. Oh. Yeah, the tough cook disease. My God. Just die, will you? So yes, and then if you want to run this at a more than 30 frames a second, you can pop that on the highest settings at 1440p and you'll get closer to the 30 frames experience, and it sure does look nicer. I always seem to enjoy it at a lower frame rate and nicer graphics for some reason.
That's part of the wreckage. Jonah!
So yes, that is Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Next up we have Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and this is running at 1080p high settings, and we're getting pretty much 60 frames on that. So that is dropping a bit. Yeah, so that's not a locked 60, but it's close enough. We'll probably take this down to 900p or medium settings, and that would lock that 60 frames in there. So yeah, this is running fine. And if you wanted a prettier graphics with a lower frame rate, more like targeting that 30, you could bump that resolution up to 1620p, and you're going to get closer to the 30 frames experience. It just looks a bit nicer and a bit sharper. It is quite a choppy frame rate, that's why I wouldn't really recommend playing this one at those settings. But yeah, Assassin's Creed Syndicate running absolutely fine. So next up we have Doom 2016, and we're running this at 1620p on high settings, and that seems to get where pretty much that 60 frames there, or maybe not quite, once there's some things going on the screen. I'm not even attempting trying to get this to run at 30 frames because what's the point? Not even I would want to run a high-paced first-person shooter like this at 30 frames. But yeah, we do seem to be getting some stuttering going on. So it doesn't seem to be a locked 60, but excuse the terrible gameplay. I don't know what's going on with that stuttering, it's a bit annoying. Yeah, so we've dropped that to 40p, and that seems to have resolved the stuttering issues. So yeah, 40p high settings, you're going to get a locked 60 frames with this GPU.
Demon presence eliminated. Lockdown disengaged.
So yeah, another game that's running fine on one of its settings. So next up we have The Witcher 3, and we are running this at 1080p medium settings to get that sort of locked 60 there, and that's running absolutely fine. Don't see any stutters with this.
It's German now.
Here in White Orchard.
What do you mean?
Man, I love this game. I just love White Orchard.
Go, go.
I love the music that plays in White Orchard. Like sometimes I would just boot up this game, fast travel to White Orchard, meditate till it was sunset and just watch the sunset in this world. It's just so beautiful. But yeah, it looks and running's fine at this.
Take it easy.
And if you did want to run this looking prettier at more of a 30 frames a second experience, you could bump up the settings to 1440p on ultra settings, and this is running at about 30 frames at 1440p ultra. Absolutely awesome.
She's your sword. She's your sword. When it's many against one, even a Vedimin is gone.
So yeah, Witcher 3 running great, whichever way you prefer to play it. So next up we have GTA 5, and here we are running at 1080p on mostly high settings, with a little bit of mixture in between.
What it do?
Yeah, we'll get the radio turned off there so we won't get copyright struck. Yeah, so 1080p, mostly high settings. We're looking at almost about 60 frames there. And if you did want to run this at lower frame rates, yeah, to run this at a more 30 frames experience, you can just bump that resolution right up to 1620p, and then you're going to have more of the like default console frame rate, and it's going to run through that fine at 1620p high settings.
Hey, you got a lot, Mom. Hey, look out for fools like me.
So yeah, very good. This GPU will have no issues with GTA 5. Faster car here, and it's still maintaining that 30 frames at 1620p. Right. So next up we have a more modern title, a more modern esports title, Counter-Strike 2. On this we're running at 1440p medium settings, and we seem to have a lot 60 there. I am just playing a game with bots. Yeah, I'm not very good at this game. 5 bots. But yeah, that's running absolutely fine, so you'll definitely be able to play this online if you can actually play the game. I actually got one. What? I don't understand what happened there. You probably can't tell, but I don't play this game. I mean, you probably can tell. Wow, that shotgun, that's got some range on it, that. So yeah, it's going to run that absolutely fine. So yes, that is Kubuntu 24.04 running on a 2017 27-inch iMac. So in terms of the drive, on the external SSD, we're getting 1000 megabytes a second read with 902.7 megabytes a second write, compared to the internal SSD, we're getting 2209.1 megabytes a second read and 1674 megabytes a second write. So that's not actually an issue with the external SSD itself, it's an issue with the port on the iMac. It's a Thunderbolt 3 port, but in terms of USB-C, it only supports 3.2 Gen 1. So those speeds fall in line with the max theoretical speed of that. It's not a Gen 2 port. So in Geekbench 6 on Kubuntu, we're getting a single core score of 1578, multi-core 5476. Compared to in macOS, we're getting 1486 single core and 5271 multi-core. So on Linux, it's a 6.2% increase in speed on the single core and a 3.9% increase on the multi-core score. In speedometer on Chrome, we're getting 16.9 on Kubuntu and 19.8 on macOS. Comparing that to an Apple M1, you're getting 32.6. BrowserBench is just a sort of benchmark of how fast the web browser is on speedometer. But honestly, anything above 11 or 12 is like really snappy, and I haven't noticed any issues of loading anything as long as it scores about 11 or 12 or higher. So that about does it for this video. I'm really glad that I'm able to now play some games on this machine. And who says you can't game on a Mac? Well, I say you can, as long as you put Linux or Windows on it. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you didn't like it, give it a dislike, or do absolutely nothing at all. The choice is yours. If you like this video, consider subscribing for more videos like this. But for now, that is me signing off. Goodbye.